Hi everyone, this is Sky, and I just wanted to come on for a quick update here on YouTube about some of the energies coming in and about how things are doing. I've been, resting up ever since I did the general readings for November, which you should definitely watch your November readings for sure. They are available here on YouTube as well as on Patreon. Thank you so much to everyone who has signed up for Patreon and who is getting the extended readings as well as weekly forecasts, which are only on Patreon. So, but yes, I wanted to come over here and talk to the YouTube family about where we're standing and how things are feeling moving into this middle section of November as the energies really start to change up a lot. So I talked about in the weekly forecast from November 7th to November 15th about how we're really getting a new spin on things and about how we are really starting to open our eyes to the real breadth of our potential. And I wanted to come on YouTube and talk about the astrology behind that and about, how we can really embrace some of these nice natural changes that we are feeling coming in. So as we're moving into this middle section of November, finally we're getting a very healthy Mercury direct in Scorpio, and we're also on November 14th going to have Mars going direct in Aries. So I wanted to talk about how important this is because we have a pretty clear picture on this channel now about the more slow-moving transits. We've talked a lot about Jupiter, Saturn, and Pluto direct in Capricorn. I'll link some relevant videos below about that if you'd like to catch up. We've talked a lot about that. We've talked about Neptune and Uranus being retrograde and still being retrograde for quite a while. And now I think that the main thing that we are dealing with more microcosmically is this shift in Mercury and Mars energy. So the main thing that I'm feeling, I'll talk a little bit about Mercury first, as it's moving from the cusp of Libra to Scorpio. We are now accepting our thought process, okay? We are now thinking differently about something. We are now maybe really embracing the transformative zest that we are compelled to. I feel that everyone is compelled to make a few transformations right now. And I feel that everyone is compelled also to look at things in a different way. There has been so much conflict, so much pressure placed on the ability to manifest, on the ability to make the opinion or the feeling become real and manifest in the world, with this combination of Scorpio and Capricorn energy so prevalent in the sky right now. And as Mercury starts to move into Scorpio, we're going to kind of, I think, look at our power in a new way and get a bit more personal with it. So, of course, we've had a lot of, political conflict and things like that. And I do feel that that is very represented by the very powerful Jupiter, Saturn, and Pluto in Capricorn, and also this Mercury-Mars tension as well, as we have Mercury and Mars both being in the traditional Mars-ruled signs of Scorpio and Aries. And what that means, again, Scorpio and Aries, it's a quincunx, so it does not really correlate well. There's something uncommunicated, there's something stifled, there's something feeling very pressurized in the mental process and the thought process in comparison to the actual actions taken. This is Mercury and Mars, and they're not really in orb right now, so it's a little bit deconstructed, the relationship between our thought process and then the actions we're taking. So this is also like the energy of delays as well. Even though Mercury has gone direct, Mars is still kind of lingering behind, and it won't be until about like the 25th of November when it's really getting back into its like direct momentum. So the entire month of November is actually a frustrating energy for a lot of people because there's just a really difficult point in calibrating the mind and the action. I want this, but will I allow myself to act on it? I know that this is right, but will I allow myself to represent that? Something is disconnected between the thought process and the action orientation. So I just wanted to come on and speak about that and really hopefully create a bit of a tranquil space for us as we are seeing a lot of results in our lives and as we are maybe having a lot of questions drawn up. Like it's a kind of an interrogative tone as well, where we might be questioned, or we might be, questioning our own motives, questioning our own actions, questioning our own philosophies, and trying to really pull them together and create a tangible world around that. There's something that wants to be so tangible with philosophy. As Jupiter is finishing up in the last degrees of Capricorn, Jupiter is the planet of philosophy and politics. And when it's in Capricorn, it is debilitated because there has to be this like very physical, rigid, unwavering representation of that. And philosophy is kind of meant to be something that adaptable. It's mutable. It's like mutable energy in astrology when we're thinking of philosophy. So that is like the error of this time, is that things actually become a little bit too solid. Things become a little bit too set in place. And then we get prepared for this incredible, new wave that's going to be coming in December with the Jupiter-Saturn conjunction, which I will be making a video for. Make sure that you're subscribed to the channel with the bell notifications turned on, because right at the beginning of December, I'm going to be making a really hard-hitting video about the Jupiter-Saturn conjunction in Aquarius. But yes, as we're leading up to that and we're having this last full month of Jupiter and Saturn in Capricorn, we are so tested. It is a huge time of testing. What do we really care about? What do we really want to see manifested in our lives? What do we really want to have solid? What do we want to be tangible? Okay, what philosophies do we want to adhere by? It is more important than we know, but we then also have to still allow ourselves some amount of adaptability and flexibility within it, because to ever make a philosophy or a mindset unchangeable or completely fixed makes it something that's not a philosophy anymore. It's like more of a law, I guess. So I think that the most important consideration in this month and moving through the middle section of this month too is like coping with conflict, and it's going to be really important that we understand how to cope with conflict as we're moving towards the Jupiter-Saturn conjunction in Aquarius, because we want to have like really, really strong coping ability. We want to no longer feel so burdened or weighed down by experiences of the past. You might have noticed with this Mercury retrograde in Scorpio that we had, and this Scorpio season, that your entire narrative might have gained a new tone or a new theme. You might now see that you're no longer, striving just to have that relationship anymore. You're no longer striving just to have love in your life, but maybe there's a more realistic, more broad sense of having, career and friendship and family stability, and all of these things kind of coming together instead of these very hyper-focused, one-tone desires. Like, okay, now I will have the career. That's all. Now I will have the relationship. That's all. That should really start to get more real for us. And that's one of the positives of Jupiter in Capricorn, is that it's very realistic. It's very plausible energy. Like the things that we want to take on are plausible. The things that we want to take on make sense. We tend to not get too delusional with things, or too, lost in our own fantasies with Jupiter in Capricorn. However, we do have Neptune retrograde in Pisces, so that can be a little bit of that type of thing. But yes, it is very much control oriented as well. We are really working on our relationships with control. And that's why learning how to cope with a sense of conflict is important, because a lot of times when people feel conflict, or when people feel indecisive or unsure of how to move forward on their path, what happens is control becomes the answer. People start to teach themselves how to really control and domineer their reality. And with that, they also then stifle the ease and simplicity that is meant to be experienced when we're really operating with our own life force energy. When we're operating with life force energy, and when we're stepping into authentic space, actually things become much easier, okay? Even things that might be seen as very hard, running that marathon, or, making an incredible business, or getting an incredible degree or something. These things that we see in society as like difficult things are not difficult really for those who are doing them from their own like authentic life force space. There are people who get into the wrong spaces and, you know, want to have something that is not really authentic for them, and then it becomes very difficult, but they can still achieve it, you know? I think that we get a very good view into what is an authentic use of our own life force right now. And I feel that that really is the answer to coping with conflict too. Again, we can be kind of tempted by control tactics, or tempted by like, okay, I'm going to completely become like the manager of my own life. I'm going to completely manage my time, and the next 10 years of my life, I'm going to predict and I'm going to adhere to this like extremely regimented plan to achieve this and that goal. And it's not like horrible. You know, I think that it can be motivating sometimes to think that way, but I don't feel that any type of like 10-year plan can ever be great during a Jupiter in Capricorn, although it's really wonderful with Saturn in Capricorn. So this again is that sense of conflict where we think, okay, I finally now realize, with Saturn placed in its favorite home sign of Capricorn, now I finally understand what a realistic plan is. Now I finally understand my long-term momentum. However, with Jupiter also conjunct in its least favorite sign of Capricorn, there's something about it that's like, but how can I ever be that when I've been this? How can my identity ever be something that's not rigid and fixed again? You know, Jupiter in Capricorn can be it can really discourage itself about the potential of its own identity, or about the potential of changes, okay? It is also really hard for Jupiter in Capricorn to look back as well, as Capricorn is a very forward-moving linear sign, and then Jupiter is also about philosophy. So we get a very forward-moving linear philosophy with Jupiter in Capricorn, and it hates to look back, okay? It's really not past-oriented. It's context-oriented, but it's not past-oriented. So Jupiter in Capricorn can very much platform off of the foundation it's built, and very much use the foundation for its higher potentials, you know, in that sort of 10th house sense. But when it comes to the deep, emotional, or dark past, Jupiter in Capricorn will not breach those waters. So there can be an erroneous fate for the energy of Jupiter in Capricorn, where it loses the actual inspirational or motivational context and relies only on the context that is societal or status quo, okay? And it rejects that which is actually emotionally motivating. So that's why the energy of Scorpio season, which is exactly that territory, it's like the energy of the emotional past. It's like the energy of emotional inspiration, life force, all of that. It kind of lays Jupiter and Capricorn energy bare, and it's like the most mature part of Jupiter and Capricorn, as it's late degree right now and preparing to get towards the cusp of Capricorn and Aquarius. And what happens, I think, what the result of all of that is, if we're looking at this as like a math formula, is humility and humbling, okay? As Jupiter and Capricorn energy kind of gets to this most noble aspect, this most prestigious status quo place, there's a sudden remembrance or realization of the loss of innocence, or the loss of true inspired motivation, and the choices made to rely on traditional power and control method instead, where suddenly there's like the reflection scene. You know, we really will see our reflection in the mirror. We'll really see who we are, what we've represented, what we've become. And for some people, it's like a celebration, because again, yeah, Saturn in Capricorn is really good for this type of thing, because it makes sense. Things are really timely, okay? But with Jupiter and Capricorn, things aren't timely. Things are arriving when we don't need them. We are successful at a time where it's actually more profitable to lay low. We are, achieving something that is more of a burden than it appears. You know, that is the sense of Jupiter and Capricorn. So that's why at this time it is so fortuitous, okay, to keep things humble, keep things easy, keep things a little bit of the same. No need to like make a huge leap of faith right now, for sure. Now that can be over this next year for sure when we're getting into the new year of 2021. But anything that is too good to be true likely is right now. Anything that is, only good or only great would likely be farce, okay? Because things are complex right now. Capricorn is also a complex sign. It's more complex than we know because it takes a lot of different types of momentum to achieve that 10th house energy. So it wants to be not complex. Capricorn wants simplicity. It wants utility. It wants a more economical process. But it is a complex sign. It is a very complex sign. So anything that looks a certain way has a lot of complex aspects that are neither good nor bad or are both, and have somehow gained a certain status that has decided one way or another, but there's nothing real about that. Okay, there's nothing real. Status is nothing real. Okay, status is a philosophy. Status is a construct. Okay, so when we think of things like status quo, which is what Capricorn rules over, these are long-running control constructs. Okay, so yes, anyone who is very reliant on status or reliant on status quo would be somebody with a strong control issue, because it is like a last result for people who have really burned out with control. So it's just really important as we're sort of navigating some of these ideas of like, what control do I want over my life? What is my autonomy as a person? Where does my freedom lie? What path is best for me? What relationship is best for me? As we're starting to ask all of these life questions right now, as I think everybody is to some degree, the last degrees of Capricorn is like, okay, what will I maintain? What will I represent? What will I be seen as? Major identity implications. I think that we have to let time pass and keep things as easy for ourselves as possible, striving for simplicity, and not doing anything that disempowers us later now, okay? For like the achieving of something. Like we think, okay, I'll disempower myself so that I can achieve this level, this job, this relationship, this whatever. And it's really hard for advanced Capricorn energy to not make a move. It's hard for it to keep the cards at the chest because there's also scarcity and lack-oriented mindset in the last degrees of Capricorn because it's almost over. The reign is almost over. The power of the 10th house is fading, okay, at the last degrees of Capricorn. The most empowered part of Capricorn is around the area of 19 degrees, and as it moves up through the 20s, it is the most status quo part of Capricorn. But as it gets to 28, 29 degrees, it is over. Okay, it's over, and it's also very prone to acting out, or very prone to power plays or power mongering, or that last that last shot at maintaining 10th house energy. Either that, or it can be like the energy of death, or the energy of change in succession, or the energy of inheritance as well, as there's like a transfer of control at the end of Capricorn and into Aquarius. And yes, because of that, then the very first few degrees of Aquarius deal a lot with control also, as it's a fixed sign. So again, we'll talk more about this in the Jupiter-Saturn video. I kind of love the stream of consciousness that's coming through just about this already though, but I kind of want to get a little bit more feeling of what's coming in for that energy before I do a specific video on it. But the first few degrees of Aquarius are very powerful, very revolutionary, very identical actually to the last few degrees of Capricorn, except it's like reinvigorated, and it is very powerful. It's like a very strong sense of power. And then as Aquarius evolves, it gets like very unpopular, like the feeling of power, the feeling of control becomes unpopular, and it becomes more about like popular culture, and it becomes more about you know, the transmutation of things, the alchemy of experiences like cooking, recipes, things like that. And how we also do that in a sense when it comes to the decisions that we make, like the recipe of our life, for example, the recipe of our experience, what all components have led us to be where we are, how did this job actually manifest? It's kind of like a recipe, you know. That's a lot of Aquarian energy. It's about that alchemy. It's about that combination of experiences that create an outcome. And all of that has roots in that more complicated Capricorn energy, you know. But I digress. That's very much about these future transits. But just for this video, because I just wanted to make a video, you know, kind of off the cuff, actually, because I know that a lot of us are feeling unsure of our future. We're feeling unsure of what our society looks like. We're feeling unsure of what the forward momentum looks like. And that's why I wanted to come on today, is because I wanted to say that to a degree, a lot of it is not really controlled by anybody. We are very much dealing with collective consciousness. We are very much already dealing with faded momentums and things that have been made, like honestly, like momentums that maybe are like centuries old at this time, you know, millennia old. The wider humanity also has a collective momentum, okay? Wider humanity has momentums that become established throughout centuries, you know, and to a degree, no individual has a huge control over it, although there can be impacts made, you know, by individuals. But I just kind of wanted to refresh everyone and be like, okay, yes, there are these wider things that are going on. There is conflict, there is unrest, but I think also the individual is important, okay? The individual autonomy, the individual freedom, the individual sense of capability to move into their own sense of purpose is so important to see, and to not get too overwhelmed by the more macro cosmic momentum, because, you know, I think that it's just so liberating to understand our own purpose and to understand our own ability to feel how we choose to feel, to remember nature, to remember that the power of humans is unsubstantial in comparison to the power of nature and the universe. You know, we think a lot about powerful people, or a lot about powerful notions and getting power back. And that's a lot what we talk about on this channel, as well as self-empowerment, you know, and, you know, going through phases of feeling disempowered and how we can, you know, actually have more autonomous control over that than we know. And that is really important. Also, though, as we might start to fear powerful people, or as we might start to also feel jealousy over the hierarchies that humanity likes to do, it's important to know that those things can be a great source of, you know, help and good intentions. They can also be dangerous and egomaniacal. However, it's important also to know that the scope of that power is a non-tangible, for the most part. Not always. There are sometimes like tangible representations of those hierarchies, but a lot of the time it's a very non-tangible, like Sagittarian, Jupiterian construct. And yes, in that way it can be dogmatic and destructive. But within that then is also the potential for healing and reinvigoration, rejuvenation, regeneration, mass at the mass level, at the collective. So it's kind of, you know, undecided, I think, how things are kind of moving forward. Although I think that there are really strong potentials for good, and I think that there are, with any power like that, there's potential for good or bad, and nothing is really ever set in stone in that way. But it's just, you know, as we're undecisive, and then other people who are not involved in that can get like really freaked out by it, you know, or they can either like support it or get, you know, afraid of it, or, you know, and it's like very archaic at this point in time. And the Aquarian energy that's coming on will very much, I feel, distance itself from these more archaic and anachronistic hierarchies. Although Aquarius in its way can be dogmatic as well. So we'll see when we get there. But my ramble is kind of all coming back to the point, like, let's really work with purpose. Let's really work with the progress we've made over the last like 5 years. I feel like humanity's consciousness has evolved so much over the last 5 years. And yes, with that evolution, it's hard for some people to take. It's really hard for the conscious mind to process evolution. It's really hard. So some people are broken by that, okay, and are in a healing process because of it, and to a degree in spite of it. But for those of us who are really evolving and are starting to see things from this really like broad perspective, we have such a great possibility to walk through different experiences of life in a way that contributes to our own sense of imperfection becoming something empowering, and then also impermanence becoming something of a windfall. So very interesting to start to think about the transmutation oncoming, and the way that life becomes more and more alchemical, as it will become very alchemical with the Jupiter-Saturn conjunction in Aquarius. We will talk all about it in a future premiere, everyone. On that note, I think that I will wrap up. In conclusion, getting through this time, if you're feeling heaviness, if you're still feeling paranoia, if you're still feeling really worried about small details, perfectionist details, this is super possible. Try to just think about how coping with conflict is done. How have people around you coped or not coped with conflict? What can you learn? I think we can all completely learn from our surrounding environment right now. It doesn't take that much, mentoring anymore, I think, to learn life's lessons. It depends on the person. But I think that the proof is in the pudding. I think that the people around you have the answers, and at least like paying attention to the things that have happened around you is not like a coincidence right now. So we're really seeing probably a lot of coincidences and synchronicities, and we will over the next 3 or 4 months. All around this 0-degree Jupiter-Saturn conjunction in Aquarius, we're going to see coincidences, synchronicities, weird kind of like mind-boggling things coming in. But I think that that's exciting as people who are enthusiastic about symbolism, enthusiastic about allegories. It's where someone who has like a good allegorical intuition really shines. So that's exciting for, I think, all of us here in this community on YouTube who, are interested in the deeper meanings of life, the potential significance of, things that are like, whoa, what just happened? Like, was that a coincidence? Like, we're going to have our time, I think, with this oncoming transit. So I'm very excited for it. And I'm also really excited to announce, guys, that weekly Friday live premieres will be coming back at the end of November, and we're going to get through the rest of 2020 with some weekly live premieres, just like we did during the quarantines. And I'm going to do my best to really make some exciting content around it, and I want to really foster this sense of community. We're going to get through 2020. We're going to come through on the other side of 2021 with a vengeance, and with a plan to really pursue purpose, to really get healed up from these past traumas, and to really step into our power. So those will be happening every Friday at 6 p.m. Pacific time. I know that my great friends from the UK are back in lockdown, and you guys are needing some good content. I may also try to do some premieres at a time that's more good for my UK people. It's just the most of my audience is actually in the West, in the US. So I try to make Pacific time zone the main time zone of the channel, because that's where the majority of us are. But I just want to send a bit of love also out to my UK people who are in lockdown right now. And I want to really encourage you guys that you've got this, you're strong, you're going to learn so much from this, you're going to learn more about yourself, and you're going to come out of this stronger. Don't let it get to you. You guys can do this. And also comment below for us, I guess, who are not from the UK. Let's really build up our UK family and UK community members, because I know that they are being tested and challenged again with these lockdowns. So we'll be here. We'll be getting through 2020. Be sure that you have the bell notification hit so that you know when premieres are coming. I post updates to the community tab about, future things with the channel. We're going to be starting the premiere season with a Saturn and astrology video. So I know that you guys have been wanting more in astrology series updates. and I am listening to that. And November 20th, I believe it is, will kick us off at 6 p.m. Pacific time with a Saturn in astrology video, and we will go through the rest of 2020 and usher in the new year with a premiere season that will be so great, and I can't wait to be catching up with everyone and enjoying it. Be sure also to join the Discord. We have a whole Discord community below. It's a great way to stay updated with the channel and talk about all these topics with other like-minded individuals who are so great. Like when I first started the Discord, it was like, okay, how am I going to like moderate this? Are there going to be trolls? Are people going to be crazy? People have been absolutely wonderful. I haven't had to moderate anything, and we have a lot of members, so it's like incredible the kind-hearted people that have made that happen. We just had a game night recently. We played Among Us. We do a lot of community-driven things. So for those of you who are, in lockdown or even like self-imposed quarantines, whatever you guys are doing, and you need like more community focus, welcome. I'm really working to really foster community for people at this time going through this, because we have a lot of healing to do. So thank you so much. My name is Sky. For those of you who are new, hit the like button, subscribe, and comment below. Let me know how the video resonated for you. Much love. Good luck with this time. Let's get through 2020, guys. Bye.